Okay, guys, welcome to the meeting this week. We've had a lot happen this week, so there's going to be quite a bit to recap over, and of course, there's still plenty more that's upcoming and in development. So I'm going to go briefly over some of the things that have happened over the course of last week, which is one thing that recently got introduced to our forum. So in case you're unfamiliar with it, it's eos-forum.org. It's a decentralized forum built on the EOS blockchain using the Novasphere API. So one thing that recently got introduced is being able to tip on the forum, and tips are fully on-chain. There's no middleman party involved in how the tipping is conducted, and you can actually tip any EOS token on the forum, not just Atmos. So for any project that's in the standard token list, which is managed by EOS Cafe, it can be tipped on the forum. Another thing that got implemented is the upvoting and the sorting of posts via upvoting, so the score mechanism. And upvoting with Atmos has also been implemented, so anytime there's a post, you as an EOS account holder can upvote that post one time for free, and then if you want to upvote it further, you can pay some Atmos to do that. Now, when you pay the Atmos, you're given a quoted rate. So at this point in time, the current rate is 10 Atmos is one upvote. Half of that goes into a DAO holding account to be later used for the project, and the community will decide how that's used. So that would be 5 Atmos. And the other 5 Atmos actually goes directly to the person that you are upvoting. So that person gets a little bit of something out of it too. So it helps promote good content on the forum, content you like on the forum. Another thing that got recently implemented that has been long overdue is we started to implement some of the moderation features. So one of the self-moderation features that recently got implemented is the ability to block users. Now, when you block a user, you stop seeing threads that were posted by them, and you can go to their profile and unblock them at any point in time that you want. And if this user posts in a thread, their posts automatically get marked with a spam indicator that's very easy to visually identify, and their posts are automatically collapsed so they don't get in the way as you're reading the thread. So that's one way you can deal with users that are spamming, or if you don't like what they have to say, you can always block them and filter them out of your point of view. Now, to clarify one thing that you might not understand as to why the posts are automatically, or sorry, why their threads are automatically hidden. This is actually a setting that can be toggled in the settings modal of EOS Forum. By default, this is set to true. And the reason for this is because if there is someone who decides to spam the forum, they can post a lot of threads really quickly. In fact, you can post threads essentially as fast as you can post regular replies. So this is an easy way of dealing with someone who may take advantage of this to sort of spam the forum to create a ton of threads, to create just clutter. So that's why this works the way it does. Now, another thing that we recently introduced is delegated moderation. Now, this has been implemented, but there currently is no UI to set your delegated moderators. But I will be talking a bit more about this because delegated moderation is, instead of you managing what posts are spam and what users should be blocked, you can delegate this task to another person or another group or several other groups or several people, whatever, and they can help moderate content for you. And if at any point in time you feel like these people that you've delegated moderation to are abusing that power, you can always opt out of it. So it creates sort of a moderation as a service type environment. And so now where we can see this already being used is we recently launched a piece of software called EOS Form Proxy. And what EOS Form Proxy does is we wanted to have a way where somebody could host a mirror or their own version of EOS Form and sort of customize it to their own liking. So what I mean by that is be able to customize the theme, be able to customize the top, the default subs that are available, and the default sub that people land on when they first visit your site or your form. And I'm going to post a link to the guide that we posted about EOS Form Proxy. So just give me 1 sec. I'm going to post it in the meetup chat. And I'm also going to post 2 examples that have been set up by our community that use this software. So those are 2 examples, and I'll read them out loud. One example is blockballs.com. That's right, you heard me, blockballs.com. And we also have safespace.fun. That's safe-space.fun. And so these are 2 easily set up to manage community ran instances of EOS Form. And so where we're going with this is we want people to easily be able to set up their own version of the form that isn't isolated. So what I mean by that is, for example, when you set up your own form using, let's say, the PHBB software, you are isolated from all the other forms that are using PHBB. Whereas in this case, when you're setting up a form for yourself and your community using EOS Form Proxy, you're not actually isolated from the rest of EOS Form, and you're not actually isolated from eosform.org. All your posts that occur on your form will appear on EOS Form as well. And all this does is it lets you set up custom moderation and certain presets to better run your community without your users have to manually configure that stuff for themselves. Now, eosform.org, the base software, the base site, will never impose strict moderation guidelines onto anyone. We believe everything should be opt-in. However, we want to make it easy for people that if they want to run communities using our software, they can create presets such as certain moderators, for example, setting themselves as a moderator, and their users can always opt out of that if they choose. So another thing that recently got changed is we actually changed the link format of the of threads and permalinks. It now actually, instead of using the transaction ID, it uses a short numeric ID, and it also includes a title as part of the URL. The title isn't actually used for anything. It's sort of just a filler space, so you can sort of get an idea of what the link you're about to click is. But the short ID, fortunately, is actually consistent across different EOS nodes. So originally, we didn't think this was possible, which is why we were using the transaction ID. But this is actually still, even if someone hosts a mirror and runs their own Novasphere DB API, they should still get these same numeric IDs. So this actually works out perfectly as intended. Another feature that got recently introduced is the quick reply feature, which typically before, when you wanted to reply to a post, you would click reply and then a modal dialog would come up and it would let you do a bunch of things like set an attachment or even preview your post. But sometimes you just want to quickly reply to a post and you don't actually need all of that, and the modal usually will cover the text that you're replying to, so quick reply offers a really easy way to quickly reply to posts. And this is very similar how replying works on Reddit. So quick reply is essentially the exact same as how replying works on Reddit. Now, another thing that's been happening is I want to give a shout out to the user of our community, Crypto8, who made a post over in the Japanese community, which they use another form. And we've been having, or at least trying to get some of them to come out and move their discussion over to the forum. Because most of them, they conduct an anonymous conversation on their form software, but we believe that if they're discussing the project Atmos, Novasphere, or whatever really they want to discuss, why not discuss it on the software that we're developing instead of using some other existing software. And now one last thing to cover as to what's happened this week, there might be a few other things that I've forgotten, is the work that CodeBlue has been working on. So CodeBlue has been working on an anime streaming service/website that makes use of the Novasphere DB API and also makes use of the same data that's been posted on the forum. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to link to a post that was put on the forum by CodeBlue. So I'm going to put that in the meetup chat here. And then I'm going to put 2 links to actually a GitHub page that he's running currently. So just a moment. So if you go to one of the links I provided there, it actually shows pretty much the exact same information that you actually see on the form, but it's presented to you in a slightly different way. And so what this is going to allow us to do is it's going to allow us to develop an anime streaming service that's sort of backwards compatible / directly integrated with the form. And this allows you to add mirrors to this site in a decentralized way. It allows you to share this content in a decentralized way. It's very easy to manage and filter spam in terms of if something is the wrong video, or if something is now a broken link or a broken source or whatever. And these videos that can be hosted however the uploader wants. It can be a traditional URL, it can be hosted on IPFS, whatever. It really just comes down to, does the front-end interface of the website know how to display this user information to the user? And so just to highlight something, the 37208 in the URL is an ID that corresponds back to another website called myanimelist.net. So I'm going to put a link to that in the chat. And so this is sort of where it pulls some of the data about the series. And this method of how it's using MyAnimeList as a data source and just using its ID to identify sort of the series, this exact same concept can be applied to other websites, for example, such as IMDb. So this interface, once it's been more fully developed and it's more robust, it can be easily integrated to work with other video services. And again, all of this is fully decentralized, fully self-hostable, and it'd be very difficult for anyone to sort of interrupt this sort of setup. Now, lastly, to cover some of the stuff that's upcoming, delegated moderation, as I mentioned before, is missing a UI, so we are going to introduce a UI for that in the upcoming, or I guess this week. Some of the features that we're looking to introduce also for delegated moderation is the ability to pin messages to a sub, just a standard form feature that a lot of forms have. Reddit has it. Another feature is so right now, when you tip someone on the form, you are tipping the person you are replying to, but we are going to introduce a mechanism that allows you to tip someone else just by including their name at the very end. So the way that'll work is right now, when you issue a tip, you do hashtag tip, amount, symbol, and in this update, you can also then, after that, put @name, which is for the name, it'll be an EOS account, and then you can tip to someone other than just the person you're replying to. Other updates that are coming are being able to search for posts via arbitrary text. So this is really important, right? Because not all content is going to be hashtagged on the form, and sometimes you sort of just want to do a Google-esque search where you might know a few words related to the content that you're looking for, and those words might not have been hashtagged. So this is a feature that's upcoming, being able to search for arbitrary text. One that I talked about last week that's sort of gotten pushed back because it's not as important, but is the status on the user profile. And lastly, another thing that's upcoming is the user profile broken down into posts and threads. So that's very similar to how Reddit currently does this, where you can sort of either navigate through a person's posts or through a person's threads. And lastly, on the upcoming list, that I can think of is notifications. And this is a really important one because notifications make it a lot easier to follow a thread, especially one that might get buried or is old. So what notifications will allow for when someone replies to one of your posts, you will see a notification when you're using the site that, hey, there was a reply to you. And the nice part about this is we figured out a way that we can implement these notifications without actually having the backend, or sorry, I should say a backend, sort of keep track of what you've seen and what you haven't seen. So the nice part about this is that this data is fully universal and doesn't introduce any centralization into the system. So that's really nice, and I think notifications will be a really big feature in terms of helping people keep track of what's going on in threads that they want to follow in discussion that they're interested in. So I think that covers more or less everything that I can think of as to what's happened this week and what's upcoming in the near future. So if you guys have any questions about either the forum or what's going on in Novosphere or anything in general, now's the time.
Cool. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Moots. So I have a friend, House. He's actually listening. He was asking me like, what's so special about the forum, And I was trying to tell him how it was decentralized and how it's more of a censorship resistant platform. We've all heard Alex Jones recently just got deplatformed. Road Crypto educated me on that. How does this resist censorship? What makes it better than the other platforms? Just something really simple.
Sure. So, one of the ways. Okay, so I've pointed this out before in a previous meeting, and I'll point it out again. If you're using a blockchain in your project, you really have to consider, do I need a blockchain? And I feel like there's two main aspects where you might want, where you actually consider using a blockchain, which is one, you want something that is trustless, that doesn't involve counterparty risk, and two, you want something that is censorship resistant. So what I mean by that, and how the forum is censorship resistant, is if you consider how a blockchain works, it's permissionless. So, for example, when you want to send money from one person to another, and when I say money, let's use Bitcoin as the example, no one has to give you permission to actually send that Bitcoin from one person to another. You simply broadcast the transaction to the Bitcoin network, and it gets put into the Bitcoin blockchain. Very similarly on EOS, in this case, you create a post that you broadcast to the EOS blockchain, and it gets put into an EOS block. And no one can censor you from doing that, essentially. So, because that data is in the blockchain, any of these, anyone running a Novosphere DB node, for example, we, Novosphere, run a public API service, a public Novosphere DB node. That information gets picked up in our database, and that's essentially why it's censorship resistant, is anyone can run this software.
Gotcha. So, and now I've been seeing a whole bunch of people start creating. I'm not sure if it's public. It's public, right? The forum, yeah. So the new test forum, a lot of people are creating, like, duplicating it, cloning it. What does that do for us?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I mentioned this earlier when I was covering some of the features.
The first half of the show, I was trying to get this live stream to work, and then I just gave up, man. I was like, all right.
Yeah, no problem. I don't mind reiterating over things. So yeah, we launched a piece of software called EOS Forum Proxy, and what it allows you to do, I put the guide for it actually in the meetup chat. What it allows you to do is it allows you to host your own version of EOS Forum, but it's a little more customized to your preferences. So for example, EOS Forum by default has no moderators, but let's say you want to set up your own community, and you want to set yourself as by default as a moderator. So you can actually do that through the presets using EOS Forum Proxy. Now, users of your site or your version of the forum can always opt out of you as a moderator, so that's still a thing. It's just making you as a moderator by default. And I believe this will allow you to build more concentrated communities that are more focused on specific things and tailored to a certain person or a certain community's needs.
Right. So basically, what I could do is, if I just want crypto radio, right? I just have to, and I'm actually thinking of doing this. We're gonna change to blockballsradio.com, right? If you got Block Balls, you're gonna listen. We're all geeks here. So I could filter out everything completely and just create my own, like, page on the forum, right? And just filter out the rest. So I could call it Crypto Radio, and that's the only thing that'll show on my own personal page, right? Everything I post in that thread on
So people will still be able to read other subs on your form, but it's more so that the defaults, you could set it very specific to what your form is about. So, for example, you could set the default form to the default sub to Crypto Radio, and then you could have a bunch of other subs broken down like Crypto Radio BTC, Crypto Radio F, Crypto Radio EOS, and whatever you want essentially. And it lets your community have an easier time of knowing what subs exist and what subs they should be posting in.
Oh, very cool. So I can make a sub for every project that comes on the radio station.
Yeah, exactly.
Very cool. All right. Yeah, we're me and you are going to work on that eventually. Not tonight, but sometime this week. I got to flip over. So Crypto Core Radio has been retired. We're gonna grab our balls and call ourselves Black Bulls from now on. Should be fun. I like the name.
Yeah, I mean, good luck with that. I mean, hope it works out great.
Well, it'll be on the forum. It'll be on the forum. This is the only way you're going to be able to get to it. So
yeah, it's awesome.
It'll be pretty cool. It'll be like a radio station just for. See, that's another. So Novosphere EOS forum. I guess we'll have a team meeting later on about it, and we'll start discussing some stuff. Because I think we were thinking about getting rid of the EOS forum name, right? But now,
well, I don't think it's necessary to actually get rid of the EOS forum name now, because if anyone wants to host it under a different name, they can always do that by hosting it under an EOS forum proxy, right? So there can be other names, and maybe there will be another brand name that's used as a more broader name of the software. But by default, it's fine if EOS-4 still exists, and I don't think it ever needs to be retired because proxies can just be set up.
Oh, awesome! So who's going to make it more popular? Whose domain name is going to win? That's fun. Oh, cool. So we're going to do this every week, guys. We'll have a live stream eventually by next week, definitely. I'll get it out there on all the social medias. As of now, we are now signed up to over 100 social media accounts. Izu and all those other weird ones. There's definitely over 100. We're getting things moving along, guys. Anybody new to this project, I'm going to tell you now, I just joined the team. I've been following this project for over 2 years now? It's been a little over 2 years, right?
I don't think it's been 2 years yet. We're coming up on 2 years.
Almost 2 years. And it's a constant development. Asphyxia is real. He's here all the time. He's always here to answer questions for people. I like that about developers that could do that. I didn't just join the team because I needed a job. I joined the team because this is a great project. It sucks working for a project that sucks. I can tell you that from statistically, it sucks. When you don't believe in the project, but this project is cool. And it actually has a developer that's really smart. And I'll tell you, I'm not just saying that. It was about a year and a half ago. I asked Asphyxia to make me a code for a website, and I've been asking people before. I asked him, to make it for me, a ticker that scrolls across the screen, right, for my live website. Nobody could make it for me. I even paid people on Fiverr. Couldn't get people to create it in 5 minutes. He had it created in 5 minutes. Literally, he's like, "Oh, is this what you're looking for?" And he made it in like 5 minutes. Right? That's skill. He knows what he's doing. I know that's just an example of HTML, CSS, APIs, but that's a lot. Just in that, he showed that he's got the knowledge to get the jobs done. And then on top of it, it expanded over time. Now we got Code Blue, a GUI developer, and It's got everything it needs to be great. On top of it, they're concentrating on decentralization and censorship resistance, which is the most important right now. Because we see all these crazy things going on. Google just now, Google Plus is going down. There's no more Google Plus. They just announced that there was a security failure about it, and they're going to close down Google Plus. You hear about that?
I did not.
Yeah, just came out. Wall Street Journal. And they're not going to tell us, but who knows what kind of information got leaked about people's accounts? Oh God, it's so crazy. But hey, guys, I think I'm pretty good at the moment. I don't have any more questions for you.
Sure.
I wish House was there.
Have any questions? You were asking a few things just before the meeting started.
Yeah, look, you kind of cleared my head there, and I've found that hosting your own forum page, so I'm gonna have a bit of play around with that and see if I can break it.
Sure.
I'll just mess around with it as much as I can.
Yeah, one of the really nice things about how the EOSForm proxy software works is actually you can host your own version of the form straight from GitHub pages. You don't even need to set up a web server or anything like that.
That's fantastic. This is really, really timely. I mean, this is such a great idea and really timely.
Yeah, right?
Oh, man, it's incredible. I'm surprised for exposure. Maybe that has something to do with your anonymity. A quick question, and it's a little bit hard to navigate. Why do you want to remain anonymous, Asphyxia?
So there's a few reasons for that, which is, I've gone over this before, which is, anonymity is one of those things, like, on the internet. And it's one of those things that when you lose it, it's very hard to regain, right? It's not something that you can easily regain online. And I personally don't see a good reason in exposing my identity. Now, what I've said before is, like, if I was ever actually doxxed and that information got out there, I don't think it really would matter. But it's not something that I see a real need to put out there, because I don't want there to be attention on me in terms of the project. I would rather people focus on the project and the actual software and what it is that we're trying to do. And a lot of people don't understand how important it is the issues that we're trying to address are. A lot of people will blow off certain things like freedom of speech, and they don't think it's a big concern. You know, for example, if you tell someone, I'm doing XYZ to help improve freedom of speech in the world, I don't think it comes off as great as if someone says, I'm trying to solve, hunger in Africa, right? But, you look at other problems that are going on in the world, like, this sounds hilarious, banning memes in the EU. It sounds funny to, like, other people living in, like, the Western world, like, for example, the United States or, like, in Asia or wherever. But, like, this is a serious problem, and it's, like, gradually our rights are being taken away from us, and we're sort of just rolling over and letting it happen. So, I think it's also a safety concern in the sense that when you actively put yourself out there as someone who's trying to break the existing system, and you say, this is me, guys, you're actively making yourself a target, and so I don't really see a good reason to put myself in that situation.
I think what he's saying, House, is that if you don't have to, then why do it?
Yeah, look, that was a great answer. That was a really, really great answer, and bang on, right on the money. I'm really excited about this project, you guys. Honestly, this is kind of one of a kind, and as I said, really, really timely. I'm kind of involved with another project that marries perfectly with this, so I'm excited to kind of flesh that out a bit more and bring something additional to the table. And Yeah, I'll be watching really, really closely. And Luke and I work close together for a few years now, so I'll be around. And I'll keep my eyes very closely on this. Congratulations, you've done a great job.
Sure, maybe you want to give us just a small description of the other project that you're working on. Maybe there's a few people in the community that are interested in looking into it on their own.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it's not my project, but it's the most privacy-centric currency or coin out there at the moment, hosted on Komodo platform. It's called Pirate. I'll check you a link. It's very, very new. We've got the third highest equihash in the whole space. It's only been going for just over a month. It's based on the ZK Snarks. But I'll chuck a link in there somewhere. Oh yeah, in the meetup chat, and whoever's interested, go and have a look. It's really exciting.
Actually, might like it. You might like it, dude. You know what I like about it? The best part about it? There's no transaction information. So you try to look it up on the ledger.
It's absolutely anonymous.
It's so anonymous. You can't even look it up.
Okay, yeah,
cool.
That's cool. I mean, yeah, that's some good information and a good starting point for anyone in our community who wants to take a look into it. Yeah, thanks. I appreciate you sharing that with us.
How do you? Well, that would be up to you, Ashby. How you get different algorithms to work together. But I heard about Pirate. I didn't get into it yet, House. There's just so many coins to look at all the time, and I've been really busy.
Sure, if you guys have any other questions, we could go over that. Or if not, we can stop the meeting here.
Can I ask just how many guys have you got working on the back end there?
So there is Code Blue, who is working on an anime streaming service that uses the Novosphere API, and I'm working on a few different things, one of which is EOSwarm, and another of which is the overall Atmos and Novosphere project. So really, there's only two of us that are doing development at this point in time.
Last question, and I don't mean to overstep my boundaries or anything, but is there any bad blood left between, what was his name? Notorious?
No, not at all. He was working on so I mean, I can give a brief recap of the history. So early on in the project, initially we were working together on Novus/Novosphere, so it was one and the same thing at this point in time. There were some conflicts in terms of how things should be handled, how things should be managed, and because of that, we sort of split the business into two. So there was Novosphere and Novus. So Novus was sort of his thing, and Novosphere was my thing. And at this point in time, Novosphere was using some of Novus's resources on the legal end side of things, so connections that Notorious had, to do certain research about the legality of the project. And I can get into one of those things actually shortly after this. But as time progressed, there really wasn't much for Novosphere to get out of the services that Novus was providing. So we eventually terminated contract / using them, and he's been doing his own thing since then.
Thanks, Fixia.
Yeah, sure. I can cover one of the legal points that I just mentioned, because it is something that came up recently in some of the EOS discussions with some of the block producers. So one of the concerns people had is, what are you going to do if bad content gets posted on the forum? How do we deal with this? And this was a question that I also had for the block producers, and these are guys who are, the main guys who are running I guess, EOS, in the sense that they are the ones who are elected into this block producer position. And so obviously they have bigger infrastructure, they have bigger teams, they have bigger resources in terms of their legality, their legal teams, that sort of thing. So I was very curious to sort of pick their mind about what they thought about this. And the general consensus of what I've gotten so far out of this, and this isn't legal advice for anyone who might be listening, I'm sort of just paraphrasing my own opinion and my own understanding of things so far. There's a lot of ambiguity as to who should be held legally responsible for content that's in the blockchain. And the answer that we have right now is there really isn't an answer. You can ask a bunch of different lawyers and you're going to get a bunch of different answers, and there really isn't any concrete answer because the laws aren't really set up to deal with this, at least at this point in time. Now, I think it's fair that we all speculate that the laws will eventually adapt, as they always do. I mean, just look at how the laws adapted from when there was a bunch of file sharing in terms of music from not too long ago, and look at that, how that's shaped the music industry in terms of like Spotify and whatnot. So infrastructure will, come and laws will change as time goes on. And so the way I feel personally that will likely change is people who are running API services, which all the block producers are, because this is one of the things that you have to do as a block producer, is provide transactional data to other people, is they will actually have to censor certain data from their APIs. Now, the data is not censored from the blockchain. If you still ran your own EOS node instance, you'd have the data, but the data is censored from their API endpoints based on where they're geographically located. So if the data in that transaction is breaking the law, they might have to censor that data. Now, how we deal with this, because obviously that's a problem, because it means that, for example, if we are running a public Novosphere API service, we also may have to censor certain parts of our data in our public API service. How we deal with this is the software can actually detect if a transaction or a post has been censored. So if the content has been deleted, if the title's been deleted, because that's essentially where the bad stuff would be in a form, would be in the title or the content, or in the attachment, which is considered part of the content. So our API may deliver you a censored post. However, you can always fall back then to the block producer API to try to uncensor that content. And so the block producer API, you might find a block producer who's in a geographically different location where the content isn't breaking the law, or that block producer doesn't care to censor the content, and then the content can essentially be decensored to the user. Or you can run your own node, your own EOS node, and use that as the fallback, and that will decensor the content for you. So there's really ultimately no way for anyone to censor the content, and it also allows for people who are running publicly ran API endpoints to still do so in a legal way after the laws are adapted. It's a bit of a long-winded answer, but
yeah. Oh, Jesus.
So from the user long story short, from the user standpoint, the user doesn't really notice anything because this is all happening under the hood automatically. So
yeah, right. Just the only thing that it kind of raises the question. You've obviously got some real X-rated stuff and highly questionable, information or imagery, and things that probably we don't necessarily want out there. Each to their own. What can I say? Censorship resistance is great. There's some things that are highly objectionable for different people, and how we go about disguising that really kind of shows just how censorship resistant some things can be. And moderation is one thing. I guess you can take it off the front page and hide it deep underneath. That's one way of doing it without crossing that line. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how we deal with it.
In our software is moderation is entirely opt-in unless you are using another externally hosted version of the site using, for example, EOS Form Proxy. They might have a preset moderator, so that their moderators might filter out certain bad content. But inevitably speaking, because of the nature of how blockchain works, that data is essentially in the blockchain, and anyone can always get that data, and there's not really anything anyone can do about it. And that's the trade-off of having a permissionless system, right? It's sort of similar to trade-offs you have like with cash. So cash is the ultimate form of financial privacy, but of course people can use cash for bad things like, buying drugs and stuff like that. So there's some give and take.
Yeah, exactly right.
Okay, so does anyone have any other questions or?
I think the saying is freedom is not free. Got to pay a little bit. Sometimes you see stuff you don't like. Just gotta. It's out there. That stuff exists.
Yeah, you can't have the good without the bad. Is essentially what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, you can censor it all you want, but that stuff exists. Your kids will be exposed to it at one point in time. It's how you educate them and teach them how to deal with that kind of stuff.
Okay, so I think that's about it for this meeting, since nobody has any other questions. Thank you guys so much for coming out, and I look forward to seeing you guys again next week. And thank you to anyone listening.